And Pare said, "El Yosef Chalem Chalamti." I've had a dream. But I don't have somebody who can translate this dream. Anisha Mighty, and I've heard listen to the dream, lift it to interpret it. So Rashi says, lift it tazin, you'll listen, I'm sure, and you'll understand the dream to interpret it. Tishma Lashon Havana, Tishma, what usually it says the word Tishma, it means a concept of understanding. Yosef understood. Asher Tishma Lashona, you can hear, understand his language. But Yan Yosef is Pari Lehman. So Yosef answered Pari, Lehman Baladi Likim. Not I, God will give you the answer. The wisdom is not mine, but God. He will put the answer in my mouth that will bring peace to the Pharaoh. Pari said to Yosef in my dream, I'm standing at the edge of the river. And behold, from the rivers coming out 7 oxes. Which are very handsome oxes. Beautiful. But and they pastured in the marshland. And behold, there are 7 other cows coming out. Dales, they were extremely ugly. Thin and ugly. Extremely ugly. Rak is basa and a meager flesh. I've never seen such ugly ones in entire Egypt. Rasha Dalish means that chushais, they are weak. Did Rak is basa, rakais. The word raka, every expression of raka in the scripture is meaning that's lacking flesh. But the Chalna Paris Arakis Aroy says Sheva Paris of the Shayness in the meager ugly cows 8. Devour the fat 7 cows. But the very Nalkabana they came into their midst, and they're not known. Kibar Kabana, they're not known. But ain't Ra. Meaning it hadn't affected them, all that meat did not affect them, and they still look terrible. And I woke up. I saw it again in my dream. I saw that 7 branches, 7 ears of grain are coming out of one stalk. Malay is Tavis, which was full and good. And behold, 7 ears of grain, hard and thin and beaten. By these same were coming out from them. Now she said, Tsunoma, Aramaic means a rock. They are like a wood. They were like wood without moisture, and hard as a rock. And the thin ears of grain swallowed up. As Sheva Shebala Tevis, the 7 good ears. I told my what do you call these guys who do kishuf? And nobody can answer. Said to Pari, your dream of Pharaoh is one. Which God is doing, Higel Pari is telling Pari. The 7 good cows are 7 years. The 7 good ears, good stalks, grain are 7 years. It's one dream. Now she says all of them only one single period of 7. The reason the dream was repeated twice is that the matter, the good years, is ready. As he explains to him at the end, and according to the repetition of the dream of Pharaoh twice, because the matter is ready. Connection to 7 good years, it says he told Pharaoh because it's near. Connection with the 7 years of famine, he showed Pare, since the matter was distant and far off, the expression of showing a vision is appropriate. The 7 ugly stalks. They're also 7 years. Also the 7 stalks are Sheva Ne'erav. These are the 7 years of famine. This is what the word is spoken to Pharaoh. Which God is going to do. had a pare, he showed pare. Hine Sheva Shanim, boys, behold, 7 years are coming. God Sava, God Obachalet Mitzrayim. There's going to be a lot of plenty in the entire land of Egypt. Come Sheva Shanim Arav, and then it's going to come the 7 years of famine. Famine. V'nishkach kol hashava sava, and the entire plenty is going to be forgotten. Be'eretz Mitzrayim, in the land of Mitzrayim. V'kila harav es haaretz, and the famine will destroy the land. Rashi says this was the interpretation of the swallowing. And the plenty will be not known because of the famine. Which will come after that, because it's extremely severe. Rashi says this interpretation, but it was not known that there was good inside them. Why was it repeated? Double. Because it is a matter that's ready. It's happening now. I say the Eibishter is rushing to do it, starting the years of plenty. Rashi is ready. Therefore, I tell the Pharaoh to seek out an understanding and wise man. He should appoint him over the whole land of Egypt. Yaseh Pari. This is what Pari should do. He should appoint officials over the land. And he should prepare the land of Mitzrayim. He said, in the 7 years of plenty. Rashi says, is the word he shall prepare. Similarly, Amushim, and they were prepared. Verse 35, and they should collect the food in these coming years, good years. And they should gather the grain under the hand of Pharaoh, the food in the cities, and they should keep them, watch them. Now she says, therefore it's in sentence Aleph. Tachas Yad Pari b'shusay, in his custody and his storehouse. And the food will remain as reserve. La'aretz, in the land. L'sheva shnei harav, for the 7 years of famine. Ashetiena be'eretz b'tayim, which will be in the land of Egypt. V'loi tikares haaretz b'rav, and the land will not be destroyed in famine. The gathering of the food will be like any other reserves that is hidden away for preservation of the land. Verse 37. And the matter was pleased in the Pharaoh and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pari said to his servants, will we find anyone like this man who there is the Spirit of God? She says, will we find such like this? If you seek him, will you find anyone like him? Nimtza, negation expression, like, can we find? This is the best that we could have found. And that completes the Chumash for today. Now we continue the 3rd chapter of Tanya. We are in the middle of the 3rd chapter. And the Alter Rebbe is explaining Chem, Chochma, Bina, Das. Alter Rebbe is explaining the Seichel, the way the Seichel is divided into three things. Intellect is divided into 3 things. He explained Chochma. Chochma is the concept, the potential. And Bina is taking that potential and bring it out in breadth and length of the concept. And then we have Das. We're still in Bina. We'll get to Das in a moment. For when the intellect and the rational soul deeply contemplates, and immerse itself exceedingly in the greatness of God. So here the Alter Rebbe is going to give you the concept of meditation. What must the mind meditate? What must the mind think about? What means his bodiness, contemplation, meditation? And Alter Rebbe says meditation is when you feel something in your mind. You don't empty your mind, actually, you feel something. God fills the world. God fills the world. It's a ani mali, the Eibush said. I fill the world, meaning God animates creation with an imminent divine light and life force, just as the soul fills and gives the life to the body. The Eibush fills the world, and he's within the whole world. A life force which clothes itself and is unified itself with each creature and which adapts itself to the individual needs of every creature. And so too, like the body, the soul fits into every part of the body from the foot till the head. Then you have that's memali kol almin. Then you have to contemplate that at the same time, save of kalam, that the Eibush encompasses the whole world. What does that mean? He illuminates the world of the godly life and life force that's beyond the capacity of the worlds to receive internally. The Eibush is there internally, but internal, as we learn later in the Tanya, that the Eibush is there, but the body is not capable of receiving the Sir, and this, so therefore it's hidden the Sir from the body, from the world. And that's Soivev Kol Almin. It affects them with an encompassing manner. So we have Memala Kalam, the way God fills the world, and we have the concept of Seva Kalam, where the Eibush, where the God surrounds the world, so to say, is encompassing the world. He's hidden from the world. And at the same moment, Hula Kamei Klochshiv. One contemplates another aspect of greatness, namely how his presence, all creation, is considered as naught. Hula Kamei Klochshiv. Ultimately, everything by God is nothing. Ultimately, God is above the world, and the world is nothing to him. The world is bottled to him. Because nothing can exist without God's existence. If a person thinks in these three things, first way that God, the Eibush, fills the world, he animates the world. In the way God is above the world. And then the whole world is nothing. Totally bottled to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If a person contemplates this and meditates on this, understands this concept, upon contemplation and immersing oneself in any of the above mentioned aspects of God's greatness, the midah of awe and divine majesty will be born and aroused in one's mind and thought. So Chachma and Bina, which is mother and father, if they're done correctly, if they come together correctly, like any kind of relationship, they come together correctly. If you have Chachma and Bina corrected, that you not only have you have a wisdom, but you have truly contemplation and meditation, then automatically you're going to have a birth of emotions, whether it's Avas Hashem or Yiras Hashem or both. To fear and to be humbled from the blessed greatness of God, which has no end or limit. Meaning, the fear will be coupled and permeated with humility, as the awe one feels in the presence of a very wise or righteous man, which expresses one's bashfulness and humility before him. That's what we're really looking for. We're looking that we are embarrassed, so to say. We're humbled by God. We're not afraid that he's going to hit us and punish us. We're afraid of God's greatness. We're humbled by God's greatness. And if we're humbled by the Eibush's greatness, that's the concept of Yirei Ilah, as we'll learn later in Tanya, the aspect of the higher level of fear. Ufachad Hashem b'libay, and there'll be a dread of God, pachad, in his heart. This explains our contemplation of God's greatness, arouses a fear and dread of him, an expression of the attribute of Gevurah. So if you have first Im Ein Yira, now you're going to come to the second level of Ava. You'll come to love the Eibush. Shuv Yislav Libay Ba'ava Aza. And now this contemplation will bring birth to the attribute of Chesed, an expression of love of God. So his heart will glow with an intense love of God. With a fierce flame, with a passion, a desire, a yearning, to the soul. L'gdula seitzei baruch hu, which is an expression of when you say a fiery flame and a passion, so that one denoting a different grade of love towards the greatness of God. That ultimately will come to what's the Torah called Koleis HaNefesh. The Koleis HaNefesh, which means in the term of Koleis HaNefesh, a consuming passion of the soul. Nichsava gam, but the verse says, Nichsava v'gam kolsa nafshi. My soul longs for you. Indeed, it's faint, so to say. My soul is thirsty for you, God. First of all, my soul thirsts for God, and my soul thirsts for you. The Alter Rebbe says, through true meditation, through true understanding, so intense one's love becomes that the soul risks being consumed with the fiery flame that is the love of God, and total leaving the body. In fact, were it not for the forestalled this danger and contained with this great love, he would indeed expire. But he's restrained himself so that his soul remains closed in his body, to the only condition in which it is possible for him to fulfill God's mission. So really, your neshama wants to expire. Your neshama has this love, but your neshama understands that it has a mission in this world, and the mission is the world is to do Torah mitzvahs, and you cannot do Torah mitzvahs without the concept of this body, and without the concept of having a neshama beguf. And this thirst and love comes from the element of fire, which is in your divine soul. So your divine soul has automatically an element of fire. That's why it's called Neir Hashem Nishmas Adam. The candle of God is the soul of man. Your soul is compared to a fire because it has a burning desire to connect to godliness. As the students of the natural science have learned, so it is in Kabbalah. The foundation of fire, the element of fire, is in the heart. And the source and the element of water, moisture, is in your brain. So intellect is in your brain, emotions is in your heart. Intellect is cold and emotions is warm. And therefore, as a yid, you need to bring together your emotions and your intellect. That your emotions awaken your intellect. Your intellect awakens your emotions. And your emotion warms up your intellect. As we brought down a Kabbalah, Shar Nun in Portal Nun 50, that the source element of water is the level of Chachma, which is called the water of the divine soul. So in so much as the heart is a seat of emotions and warmth, we say that the abode of element of fire, contrast the brain, is the seat of cold intellect, calm and measured intelligence. The source of the element of water. Can readily observe this by comparing the demeanor of the emotional person to that of an intellectual person. So too with the intellect and emotion of the divine soul. The heat and passion of his love for God is expressed in his heart, ultimately leading him to expire Koleis HaNefesh. The mind, however, remains cool. This capacity of the intellect for calm appraisal of the situation leads to comprehend that God's intent is that the soul remain clothed in the body. So be able to fulfill the Torah and its commandments. Therefore, the mind needs to tell the soul, the heart, that it needs never to forget its mission. This realization cools the fear of the order of the heart, and thus prevents the soul from actually expiring Koleis HaNefesh. The Rebbe discussion of the birth of Midas, when the intellect has thus been far centered on the two emotions, love and fear of God. What about the others? Shad HaMidas Kulam in Afa Yidav, all the rest of the Midas, which is that is Netzach, Chod, Yesod, Malchus, all come out from Av and Yida. And obviously they too are born of Chachma and Bina, as explained elsewhere. So all of the above explains How Chachma and Bina are called father and mother, and Midah is for which is through contemplation exercised by Chachma and Bina that the Midas are born. Chachma is called father, thus as a drop of semen which derives from the father's brain, comprised in concentrated and concealed form, all the organs of the child similarly. The seminal point of Chachma contains and its concealed matter all the details of the idea, as explained above, just as the mother who reveals a child's organ from the concealed state and brings them to a state of completion. Similarly, Bina reveals, expands, and elucidates the concept in all details. What about that? So we had Chachma, Bina. What about that? The third intellectual faculty, that knowledge. Alter Rebbe, that too, also, as explained earlier, is a mother and the source of midas. What does it contribute to the birth? The Alter Rebbe is now going to say, das, what is das? Is the concept of das is connection. Knowledge is to connect, attachment. As it says, when Adam had a relation with Chava, it says Adam yodas Chava. That Adam knew his wife. So it's a concept of union. What does that mean in the intellect? When a person binding his mind with a firm, very firm, strong bond, and firmly fixing one's thought on the greatness of God without diverting his mind from it, it becomes pashut part of him. Meaning the subject matter conceived in Chachma and developed in Bina is absorbed in his mind by concentration, and that's das. So when a person takes the subject, that it becomes part of his entity, part of his life. It's not a philosophy, it's not a beautiful understanding, but it's the way that I understand, I live. It still comes united with me. As Alter Rebbe says, Ki afshu chacham v'navel. For even if one who's wise, by utilizing the faculty of chachma, v'navein gdulas ain't safe, but he has great understanding by exercising the faculty of bina. In the imla yekashe daite. The greatness of God, unless he applies his das and affixes thought firmly and diligently, the chayzuk basmada, on understanding of God's greatness, he does not produce in the soul true fear and love. So therefore, that's why the expression goes, the weakest link is my das. I might have great kolana chachamim, kolana nevenim, we have great oil, we all have great wisdom. We all have great understanding. We have a problem with the unity of the concept. We have a problem with uniting with this concept. And therefore, I have a problem with true Avas Hashem and Yiras Hashem. Why? Because all this knowledge is like vain fancies. So I have this wonderful fantasy. People have great fantasies in life, but it has nothing to do with them. To be able to create true Avos Hashem, if anybody's wondering why they don't have Avos Hashem, why don't they have true Yiras Hashem? It's because they don't, not because they don't have knowledge, not because they don't have understanding. They do. They're missing the link of das. They're missing the link of union of the knowledge with them. The union of the knowledge of the seichel, that it becomes united with them, that's where they're missing. And that's why we forget. That's why shikha, that's the concept of shikha. That's why the gullus is the lack of das. Exile in general is the lack of knowledge. We see a lot in the world today, the lack of knowledge. People say a lot of things that they don't know what they're talking about. There's a lack of true knowledge, repeating things. It has nothing really to do with them, and it's not part of them. So too we have the Galus Pnimi. We have an inner exile where we don't have feelings, we don't have true connections. Why? Because we're missing the das. And the das can only come when the wisdom and the knowledge of God, when the wisdom and the understanding of God become part of me, becomes one entity with me. So he'll imagine that he fears God and loves him. True fear and love are attained only by the way of das. And therefore, the most important thing is, so therefore, dat, knowledge, unity, union, connection, the substance, it provides a substance and vitality of the midah. And therefore, the term mother of midas, another parent side of my side, with chachma and bina. So that's why das is also called a mother. And they comprise, das automatically has within it love and fear of God. As it says, Pirush Avama, I'm sorry, that is to say, with other midas that are with the offshoots of fear and the offshoots of fear and love. So ultimately, what we need to work on is our das. That but the das can only come through the chachma and bina of a person. The more he understands things, the more he contemplates, the more he meditates, the more he sits and thinks about it and understands the subject that he's learning, the more he can become one with this subject, that it becomes him and the subject become one entity. And that's the concept of das. That completes the Tanya for today. Today is the 28th day of the month, which is chapter 135, chapter 139 in Tillim. And if you do those 5 chapters, you do the chitas of the day. Wish you all a wonderful day. And Mid Shem, see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock. We'll continue chitas.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Have a great day.